What's up, guys? This is Edward Anderson back with another video, and sorry for the long hiatus. You know, sometimes I go spells without putting out videos, and I see my subscriber count has came up mainly to a lot of the videos that I've been part of. So shout out to BMT, shout out to O'Shea, as well as others. You know, even a lot of my initial subscriber base. You all know me from BGS It More. So much appreciated to all of them that allow me to get access to their platform and to have these conversations, because you know a lot of these conversations need to be had. So the video I'm going to do for today, and I'm going to start getting a lot more consistent on putting out these videos, because a lot of really cool things is about to take off this month, going into the end of the year. So I'll be looking out for that. I plan on launching a blog and stuff like that. You're going to see me do a lot more correlations with different YouTubers and stuff, and this channel will kind of be like my home base on a lot of certain things. So with that being said, the video I got for you is something that's going to be really cool. So I want to talk about, you know, when it comes to masculinity, I like having conversations like that, because it's something that needs to be had. I think it's like a continual barbershop moment, barbershop conversation. And to be honest with you, you know, there's a lot of gems and good stuff that you can put together that really gives you a really strong foundation into what the current era we're in, the current environment we're in, how to address it, how to deal with it, how to maintain your manhood, what certain things you need to keep in mind, certain hurdles and stuff like that. And it does need to be a continued conversation. Now, I'm big on trying to move the conversation forward, meaning trying to get consistency on certain things so we can go, you know, close that out and come back to certain things and to build on certain things. And oftentimes what happens is we stay in this perpetual mode where we're kind of saying the same thing. Part of that is because I don't think that consensus is something that's always seen as out of reach. Part of that also could be because you got certain people that they just going to believe what they're going to believe regardless what the facts are. They really are more interested in pushing narratives than they are actually looking for the truth and looking for what the information really is. And that's something we got to be very honest about, because there's a lot of people that they're just out here pushing narratives because they see themselves as a part of a certain team or a certain subculture of Black people, and they have this need to defend that subculture. One of the things that's not even talked about is that, you know, with the Sierra situation, and this is not about that, because everybody's had their opinion on it, and I've had conversations on different hangouts on it. But with the Sierra situation, not even about Sierra. Let's talk about Slim Thug. Slim Thug comes from the street. Let me be clear here. Slim Thug has his own businesses. Slim Thug, when it comes to actual performance, has businesses, has things that he's doing. So he's not, even though he represents, quote unquote, the street dude, the Tyrone type of dude, even in how he acts, you know, I guess his public persona, because even him bringing up Sierra like that was something that like a Tyrone or Pookie, whatever you want to call it, would do. Saying, oh, well, why she with him? She don't look happy. Like, you're not doing that really to protect, to really inform Russell Wilson. You're really doing that because you have this need to protect the image of so-called street dudes. That image that really was born out of the early 90s gangster rap music, and it's really kind of taken over. Interesting, because there's a light-skinned dude, he's a light-skinned dude doing that same thing. So it's that, like, that archetype. And you can tell he was speaking from that archetype, addressing, which when you really look at manhood, you kind of publicly addressing another man's situation where all intents and purposes, they're happy with what they're happy with. So I don't know if he's trying to defend Future, which is another, regardless, people can say what class he comes from. Future represents a certain archetype that a lot of Black men follow. And you see a lot of Black YouTubers that represent this archetype, and they are this archetype. And they tend to have, it's kind of like if you look at them like the Nation of Islam or political, they tend to have the same kind of philosophies on things. Yeah, they may vary on other things, but they still come back to this center of gravity with certain talking points. And one of the talking points is this kind of you know, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's jealousy, but at the end of the day, you know, how can you really defend, especially when you look at like what he said? You know, what he said was, he was trying to say, well, Russell Wilson's corny. Russell Wilson's this, Russell Wilson's that. Now, I think it's a little bit more complicated than just say he's corny, because at the end of the day, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, which is a lot harder than what Slim Thug has done. What Russell Wilson's had to do as a black man in football is a lot harder than what is, it's like 20, 30 times harder than what Slim Thug's has had to do. And very few black men have achieved what Russell Wilson has achieved. And you have to, that is what it is. Now, does that completely dismiss what some Thug is saying? Not necessarily, but the thing is, certain things, there's a time and a place, and sometimes the messenger matters almost as much as the message as far as how it's communicated. These are things clearly he does not understand. So the point that I'm coming, the reason I brought that up is really to say that you have these camps that people belong to, and they're always arguing from the position of a camp, rather than actually trying to come up. Intelligence is in the nuance. One of the people I listen to a lot, his name is Myron Golden. You should check him out. Virtual Club Millionaire. He talks about there's a difference between the accumulation of information, which is called knowledge, the understanding of information, which is called, or the assimilation of information, which is called understanding, and the wisdom, or basically the I forget what it's called, but it's like knowledge plus experience of application, which is called wisdom. Those are two different things. And oftentimes what you see with a lot of people is they may have a lot of knowledge, but they don't have a lot of wisdom because they haven't lived yet. This is some stuff that you hear BTS talk about, Rom talk about, I don't know, Curry talk about. You see some other YouTubers try to bring it up when they try to talk about you ain't had kids, or you ain't done this, and you ain't done that. Sometimes it's genuine, sometimes it's just a deflection. Especially when people want to talk about the kid shit or talk about whatever, because all experiences are not equal. Having a kid, if having a kid is your primary initiation into manhood, then that's a problem, because that means you lack other rites of passages, so to speak. And that's a problem in the black community with black manhood. There's no rites of passage because the women are raising the kids, and you see the result in the community. But my point is, people are in these camps, and a lot of times they're arguing for what I call these camp or clique narratives. And you see it on both sides. You see you see outlier black men do it. Classic, but everybody does it, because it's not necessarily the archetype that's the problem. It's the person that fills the archetype that wants to defend certain things. Kind of like when you have a martial art, or if you have a car. You know, no matter how you try to argue it, a minivan is not going to do the same things that a damn roadster two-seater sports car is going to do, and vice versa. In the archetype, doesn't matter what model you get. And we have a lot of black people that rather than say, yeah, this is not going to work for this thing, or it's not going to work as well as the other thing, what they want to do is they want to say, nah, fuck that. I'm going to take that square peg and put it in a round hole because I'm a manhooded to death. And again, we have some of these false senses of what manhood is. A couple of things, I'm going to put a link in the description. Is I'm going to put Glenn and Cameron's idea of what a segmented alpha male is. And I'm also going to put a video BGS did with Jason Black on it that goes through 44 minutes of talking about the problem with black men and exhibiting masculine gestures versus true masculinity, because we operate within the matriarchy. I'm also going to put in a video that talks about fake, not fake, but effeminate alpha males by LAR Movement, because these are good, things that'll get you clued in on the thing. So now that I've kind of set the table with that, let me see where we are. All right, yeah, I'll keep these maybe like 20 minutes. Now that I've set the table with that, drilling down to what's really going on is, when you get out of these narratives, you actually look at something for as it is and stop taking these camps. What you find, let me see, is, and here's another key concept. Another key concept is you have to divorce women wanting to fuck you from masculinity. Women wanting to fuck you is a it is a byproduct based on certain interactions that one woman goes through. What people have to understand, and this is really the thing I want to hammer home in this video, just because you can get women in your environment does not mean you can get all women. That's what a lot of dudes don't understand. Women, like, when you're in a certain environment where the women have been socialized and cultured a certain way, based on that environment, they're going to select the mates they want to select based on whatever that environment is. Now, some people will twist what I'm saying is to say, well, women in the street chooses men because they choose strong men that are masculine because they're in a hostile environment. That is true to a point, but that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if you've been socialized, because let me give you a perfect example in that scenario. If there was no welfare, there's a lot of dudes that would not get chose. Like, you wouldn't see a hobosexual if the hobosexual, this art of dudes is living with women because they're playing roommate buddy with females. You wouldn't see that if there was no welfare or no Section 8. You wouldn't see that as much. You wouldn't see shit where women are calling Ubers for dudes to move Ubers around because they're operating like they're kind of mother that they're fucking kind of thing relationship, where it's in the woman's name because society is giving women all these resources because they popping out babies, brood males, all that shit. You would not see that as much because women will feel the full weight of their consequences of selecting a man that does not produce. And so what happens a lot of times is women are in this perpetual, what I call high school mode emotionally, to where rather than them living with their parents, their white daddy vis-a-vis the government is now their parent. And what they do is they're getting this check. And this is not all women. Section 8 is not even with as much women as it used to be. But my point is, you understand what I'm saying. When you look, because women still get welfare or they get child support, which as far as I'm concerned, are from welfare. Because at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, personally, I don't think you should get this will sound radical, and maybe I'm on both sides of this, but I think if you don't get married, you really should. I think there needs to be something said about just popping out babies. You should not, if a man has not made a commitment to you, if he's not going to have a right to decide whether a child should come to term or not, then therefore that weight needs to be on the person that makes that decision. Now, granted, that's not the world we live in. People get triggered by that. But I personally think back in the day, this is why you had shotgun marriages. I could, just go to BGS, type in shotgun marriage, and it'll talk about that. These laws were designed to only favor people that were married. And they were designed back where women couldn't even get jobs like that. So my point is basically the environment that we're in now and the way black people have had their culture dismantled over time, especially after the crack era. And now, like, I'm 31. I'm the generation that was born out of that. You have to understand that these women are making decisions based on certain circumstances and certain things that allows them to do what they do. It's kind of like the situation where, okay, let's say you drive for Uber, and you got a roommate. Let's say that's your situation. One thing about Uber is if you're not paid, Uber will allow you to basically live a lifestyle. When I say live a lifestyle, I'm not talking about all the money you make, but I'm talking about there's a difference between you having to go into a 9-to-5 job where you're working like 9 to 5 or 1 to 10 or whatever. You got to worry about shifts. You got to worry about bosses. You got to worry about office politics. You got to worry about anything. And then you being in trucking or you being Uber and trucking, not the same thing. But my point is you be in a situation where you can just work when you want and then you get money as a relationship to how you work. And then the money's fast, meaning you get paid instantly. Those are two different. Even if you're bringing in the same amount of money, those are two completely different lifestyles because you can get up when you want to. You got time. I'm not trying to advocate for anything. I'm just saying there's a difference between you having to work like 32 hours versus 40 hours, and you can work 32 hours pretty much whatever you want. Granted, you may have to focus on certain times more than others, but it's not like an 8-hour spat. where you're accountable to somebody and you're just accountable to yourself. Those are two completely different points of view as to how you interact with the world, even if it's the same amount of money. So money matters, but also how much access do you have to your time matters. And people often don't think about that. They don't think about if they put themselves in a situation where they could make a good amount of money, or when I say a good amount of money, I mean the same money they made, but they have more control over their time. That in and of itself is a big deal, because just the way you're able to organize your life and organize things are going to be completely different. My point is, going back to the women, and again, this video is not meant to blame women, but what I'm saying is there is a reason why when you interact with the society, if women do a certain thing, a lot of times dudes are going to adjust to that, not because they are led by women, but a lot of times dudes are led by their need to pursue vagina. So it's not that they're following the women, they're following the sexual access. So when women, it's kind of like a lever. When you chase something on the women's side, then the men are going to react to that. So it's more of cause and effect type of thing is what I'm saying. So again, I'm not here to say, well, it's women's fault, and if women just change, the men would. I'm not saying all of that. Although there is something to be said about if you change the dynamic of sexual access, that changes how the men respond. But at the same time, I could argue the other way around too, that if men stop just fucking anything, that'll change the way that women do. This is where men are given resources, and there's a difference between tricking and simping. When you trick, you give resources in accordance to a result. When you simp, you're giving out resources in hope of a result. That's two completely different things. That's another video on that. But my point is, again, it's not to blame women. It is just to say this is the nature of the environment. It's how people relate to each other. So my point is, in that environment, dude, especially when dudes are growing up in that environment and then they have no rites of passage and stuff like that, dudes are going to put a premium on what women say. So what happens is you create an environment in which women are telling men who they are based on, women are able to vote for the men that they want based on bullshit socialization. So they're not looking for people that's necessarily producing. Yeah, they want to do the produce and provide them a lifestyle, if that comes with that. But when you're used to a certain way and you get little trinkets and stuff like an iPhone and stuff like that, that sexual need is something that's going to take precedence over that. Then you got to understand that women don't really see the consequences to their actions until after the fact. So if women are in their 20s and stuff, where they're looking, their view of the world is like sexual attention, then if they're getting it cheap, they're going to take it. And they're going to react to the world as a result. And then the dudes are reacting as a result. It's the same thing when people will try to argue that you're really broke, but because you have credit and you are able to access loans and stuff, you can get things that don't really let you know that you're broke, which there is truth to that. It's the same reality. You don't really see the fact that you're broke until over time. And that's the same thing when a woman goes into their 30s, 40s, and then that sexual attention, which is, you could argue, is a commodity. It's a literal commodification of that woman. That stock lowers, and then now they're starting to see what stuff really is, but by that time it's too late. Because dudes can always increase their utility and date younger. Women can't really do that, not with the same quality dudes. They can get some dudes, but again, a quality dude based on his ability to perform. So, coming all the way back to that, because we're basically at 19 minutes, is this. You got a lot of dudes that will say, I'm a man, because they can get dumb chicks, but at the same time, if they oh yeah, man, I can get a white girl. But then you look at what's the quality of the white girl. You look at whether that white girl actually be in a relationship with them, because it's one thing to fuck a black dude. It's another thing to actually be openly in a relationship with him, where your white privilege can get tagged. That's just like a dude fucking a woman versus a man committing to a woman, where now there's other things he's got to give to that relationship. There's a different calculation in that. And what happens is we got a lot of dudes that want to say they're alphas, when in reality, yeah, you may be able to get a certain type of woman, but at the end of the day, when you can tell how some, okay, I'll say it this way. If you want to know if a dude is like a true blue alpha male, you need to look at how he interacts with something that he's not good at. That is how you really tell what the makeup of a dude is. How does he take something that he's not good at or he's not comfortable with? Because what you have is you have a lot of dudes that will, this is why I like what Glenn and Cameron said, talk about segmenting alphas. You got a lot of dudes that can be in an alpha state in things that they're good at. Meaning they can lead, they can tell dudes what they're doing right, what they're not doing right. They're confident in what they say because they're good at it. Everybody knows is one guy that people like. Everybody knows people that like in certain, you may not fuck with them overall, but in certain things, these are the go-to people because they're good at that one thing. You see it in movies all the time. When you see technical people, when it comes to computers and stuff, they're the go-to people, and you can see how they enter. I just watched Baywatch. On streaming. And one thing that was interesting, how you had this one dude, obviously The Rock, Zac Efron, had this one dude that he wasn't good at that, but when it came to the computers, that's what he knew. And to see him interact with Zac Efron, it was like, Zac Efron wasn't being submissive, but at the same time, it's like, wow, this dude was a lot more confident than he was when it came to girls, versus the way Zac Efron interacted with getting burned. Because it didn't shake his confidence, it was a different situation than like how the other dude interacted with. There are certain situations and certain people, and the problem with black people is we tend to look at things as an all or nothing, and that's the emotionalism in us. Oh, you ain't an alpha male because you can't get black women. Okay, so would you tell that to a white? Okay, let's say a dude's white and a dude can get white women but can't get black women. So would you say that dude's not an alpha male? So basically, your ability to deal with a woman's belligerence defines if you're an alpha male or not. Because most dudes around the country, or most dudes in the world, would just knock the teeth out of a woman that gets as disrespectful as black women do to black men. Problem solved. And the women would say, well, you shouldn't open your mouth. But see, so it's a difference between society, culture, and what is norm, what is taboo. All these things play in the mind. And in the black community, we want to look at this certain thing that we've been cultured when it comes to the music, the entertainment, the movies, the politics, the overall matriarchy that's been there. Our lens, when we talk about what alpha, beta, all this stuff is, at the end of the day, it's really almost irrelevant, because at the end of the day, man, you're either performing or you're not performing. You're either doing something, you're not doing something. And what black men have to stop doing is they got to stop thinking that you can say, okay, I'm getting pussy though, so that means that I don't got to do anything else. Or I can compensate, well, I'm getting women though, so all that other stuff is irrelevant. That is the thought process of somebody that doesn't understand legacy and doesn't understand passing stuff down. And this is why people remain broke, because they want to make certain excuses on certain things. Like when it comes to business, it's white supremacy. When it comes to certain things, they'll blame it on white supremacy. But when it comes on, but I could argue the very white supremacy that keeps them from doing well in business is the very white supremacy that puts the women in a position where they can inflate them. Because when you look at what's promoted, black men don't control their own promotion. That's something that's being promoted onto us. That's why we have this exaggerated thug character. I mean, you got women like dudes like Lil Wayne that would be considered ugly as fuck, but you got women that is chasing those dudes because that's how the women have been socialized. And what happens is, everybody is trying to gravitate to that socialization. Not everybody, but more than a critical mass of black people. And then we see what we see as a result. But then you got people that are still invested in that fuckery to one degree or another. And hence you got people like Slim Thug. Here's the thing. On the faces of it, people should be celebrating the fact, not only celebrating Sierra, but celebrating Russell. This is what a lot of women will say, but women are trying to really justify them get saved. Not really being in a black relationship. They're really cheering for, there is a retirement package that's a good man at the end of the rainbow after I do all of my, monkey branch and all that shit. And that's what they cherish in what that relationship is. Versus, but even if you get past that, you should be like, okay, these are black people that found each other. At the end of the day, black wealth can be created. We'll see if that's what happens, but that's what you said. But nobody's really talking about that. That's not an angle nobody's really talking about, because most black people don't give a damn about that. Because most black people don't think about that. And this is where AM1 says things like, we got to stop viewing the world through our private parts. And that's very true. Most black people they base their validation based on their sexual power. And this is not to say that this is not something that you should work on. This is not something you should improve. This is not something you should pursue. But the problem is, when you look at the other things like business, investment, I'm not just talking about money. I'm just talking about your influence with people based on your ability to make things happen. Black men will make a whole bunch of fucking excuses for that. Now, some people will come and listen to this and say, oh, isn't that what Cynthia G says? No, because people like Cynthia G doesn't recognize that a man is supposed to lead in the first place. People like Cynthia G will sit there and say that because men aren't leading, that gives me a right to be belligerent, as if black women are leading the community anyway. But she has an issue with black men, and then that fact, she creates the very fact that she complains about, because you never hear her talking about women and how the women raise these dudes to be this way. It's just supposed to be magical way. It just doesn't work because of the men. It's kind of like somebody that really can't drive, but they want to say something about you driving because they just don't want to be in a passenger seat because they're arrogant, they got ego, they're narcissists, they're fucked up in the head, they got daddy issues, whatever, and they're just taking that out on you, and then they cause both people to get in an accident because they keep on wanting to grab the wheel. Shout out to Chris Brown and Rihanna. So anyway, this is just something kind of like a welcome back. Welcome to all my new subscribers. I see I'm at 911. I'm looking to get over 1,000 by the end of the year. I'm looking to probably get to like 1,500 by the end of the year. I will be, there's a couple of things I'm going to announce later on. I'm looking to definitely grow this channel. There's going to be other channels I actually create as well. And don't worry, all that stuff will be networked. But I just wanted to put this out there, kind of like a little bit of manhood talk. And other than that, this is Edward signing off. Peace.